What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. If you are new here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton, and I'm so excited to have you listening today. So today is a really cool episode. We're actually doing a three-way episode because we got a really cool guest for you. Actually, I have two cool guests for you. Now, before I get into all of that, big thank you first and foremost to the sponsors of the show. So big thank you number one is to Flex Pro Meals. They are a shoo-in if your life is like mine and it's unpredictable as fuck, if we're being totally honest. Guys, especially right now, like things in my realm have been so crazy. We've been in the middle of selling our house, buying a new house. I'm still like hiring people. Things with business are crazy. Things with like personal life is all over the place. Traveling, like things are nuts. Well, which means I need convenience right now more than ever. So that's why one of the reasons I love Flex Pro so much. I always have them in my fridge because there are so many times like right now we need to go get groceries or we have groceries, we haven't made stuff yet, but like I want to stay on track with my goals. So not only is Flex Pro like great from a numbers perspective, it tastes great and it's going to keep my shit in check, but it also is just astronomically convenient and it is cheaper and way easier than going through a drive-through. So massive thank you to them if your life is anything remotely close to unpredictable and just chaotic and you just don't always want to cook. So just having them in the fridge as like an on deck kind of thing is super helpful. So if that kind of interests you or you want to see what they have on their menu, because you won't believe what they have on their menu, go to either the link below or go to flexpromeals.com. But if you get anything, let me save you some money. You can use my code Hamilton Trained and it'll save you like 20% at checkout, which is pretty cool. Then another big thank you to First Form. You can always see if you're watching the YouTube video of this, subtle plug. I always have my First Form shelf behind me with all my products on them, or on it, I should say. So First Form, guys, is literally in the supplement world. It's the best you can get. You're not going to find any better. I would challenge that, like to find a better company than First Form. Everything from how they make their products to the legitimacy to what the company stands for to how much they'll help you to just the quality of what they're offering, like is the best there is, to having extra third-party studies, like the stuff they don't have to do, they do it. So I'm just telling you right now, First Form, like you're not going to find another better company in the world of supplements. So definitely check them out, whether you're taking like something more basic, like what I take. Like I just take like protein powder, some joint stuff, occasional pre-workout, that kind of thing. My stuff is really basic. I actually have a whole video on my take on supplements and what's the best stuff to take in the description. Or if you get into more crazy stuff, like you're always taking pre-workout or you're always, taking glycogen replacements or really like isolated proteins and all sorts of different stuff like that. Whatever you're doing, you should definitely look into First Form and what they have to offer, because it's basically like, again, you're not going to find anything better. And it's a game changer. So definitely check out the link below. I've got a free priority shipping link in the description. Be sure and use that. Save yourself a little bit of money. But otherwise, let's get into the show now. So today's episode, we are interviewing one of our clients. Actually, what happened was one of the things you'll be seeing some of the more of these episodes is I really want to do a better job at interviewing clients, because it's one thing, you'll hear me talk about this in the episode. There's one thing me telling you like, hey, here's what you should do. Hey, here's the best way to go about this. Hey, here's why you can do this. But like I'm the coach, right? So most people go, you're supposed to say that. It's like my mom telling me I look nice. It's like, you're supposed to say that. So I want to give you some real life examples that's really relatable to you. So which is why I'm literally going into our clients, like our client lists, and like, hey, look, I actually just reached out to Grant and Abby and I'm like, hey, look, who of your clients right now are killing it and who have a crazy story, have overcome a lot and are on another level right now. So those are, and that who's would be open to hopping on a podcast and just talking. And that's what we're doing. So today we are interviewing one of Grant's clients. Her name is Kim. Man, Kim has a crazy story. Kim has, I'm not going to give away all the secrets because I want her to talk about it all. But I'm telling you, if you have been in the realm of you've been yo-yo dieting forever, you've been struggling with things like your relationship with food, guilt around eating food, feeling like you can't have things like carbs, feeling like you're like stuck eating like 1,000 or 1,200 calories a day, maybe even have had even some really bad coaches in the past that like taught you the wrong stuff. I think you will relate a lot to Kim's story, because she had I didn't, to be honest, even realize how bad her situation was prior to coming over here to work with us. So Grant has been coaching her for the past like 4.5 months, I think. And she is a different human, literally, like mentally, physically. She's on a different level. You can just tell by the energy in which she speaks. She's such a different person. So I'm not going to give away all the secrets. I want you to watch, or I want you to watch and listen to the episode. So if you're listening to it, like on Spotify or iTunes, you can, or the YouTube video is also going to be out. So you can go to youtube.com/Jared Hamilton, and the podcast is now on YouTube, where if you would rather watch the interview. So I'm telling you, like this episode is going to hit home with you if you've had a really big amount amount of struggle with this stuff. And it's going to hopefully give you hope. That's my goals. I want my goal of this podcast is to give you hope of like, wow, if she can do it and overcome that and she's in the position she's at right now, there's no reason I can't. So that is my hope for you. I hope you enjoy the episode. I will talk to you in just a second. Thank you so much, Kim, for doing this. I know there's some back and forth on getting a time schedule, but I really appreciate you doing this. So
no problem. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited.
I love it. I like live nervous. So my thing is this, and this is why like you're the exact kind of person I like to get on the podcast. Cause when like someone like Grant or I talk about like this stuff, it's and like people's ability to do this and transform and all this crazy stuff. A lot of people are like, well, of course you're going to say that. You're the coach. It's like your mom telling you look good. It's like, Mom, you're supposed to say that. But when it's like, oh, when people are listening, they're like, oh, yep, that sounds like me. That sounds like me. That sounds like me. Oh shit, she's way busier than me. Oh, if she can do it, I can do it. It just makes it instantly real versus like coach saying it's real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hear ya.
So, and at this point, we're like, I'll like have an intro on this and stuff, and we're like recording already, and we're just bullshitting at this point, which is half my podcast ever. But, so Kim, if you don't mind, talk about a little bit about like where you were before all this stuff started to happen, like what your life was like. I know there was a lot of, not so great stuff like with past history of all this. So like what'd your life look like before all this happened?
Before I moved to Tampa about a year ago, I lived in Dallas, Fort Worth, and it was awful. I was commuting between 4 to 6 hours a day. Just in that little rat race. I wasn't happy with where I was working. I wasn't happy with myself. And I decided to take a chance and move back somewhere that brought me peace and that I had a little bit more work-life balance. So that's where I'm at now.
I love that. That's awesome. Has that now as far as like, how does that affect like any of this, like the fitnessy food and weight lossy stuff? Was that playing a big part in it?
Oh my gosh. I had a really bad habit of stress eating, binge eating, emotional eating, all of that. I don't know if that encompasses all as like one issue, but I would get stressed out. I would drink a lot of Dr. Pepper throughout the day as like a comfort, right? And then I would just binge eat in the car because I'm sitting there for 2.5, 3.5 hours just trying to get home. So it's like, what the hell else am I going to do? I'm stressed. I'm tired. I'm not happy with where I'm at. So, screw it. Like Keebler double fudge elf cookies.
Let's go.
Let's go. They are my companion and I'm like ready.
I love
it. Was kind of like, road trip food every day. And it was awful. So, it's been tough to like work through that.
No, I love
and
that.
Work on my relationship with food.
I love that. Well, so I'd love to talk about that because like that's the thing is like, as you know, like weight loss isn't the problem. It's all the other stuff, like all this other stuff, like food relationships, binging, emotional eating, sabotage, all of that shit comes out when you try to lose weight. But like, that's not a weight loss thing. Like you can't like diet your way to stop binge eating, right? Like it's a whole different animal. So, so talk about kind of your journey. Like I know like with like, since you got started working with Grant and things like that about like getting through some of that. Cause it's a process, right? Like that's not easy stuff to fix. So like talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So before I came to work with y'all and Grant specifically, I had worked with a nutritionist in Dallas and it was awful. It was an awful experience. She was very fat phobic and I would lose, I was on 1,200 calories, way low carbs. And it was always like, well, you should be losing weight faster because you're heavy. And I lost 5 pounds a week and I was excited. I was like, hell yeah, that's great progress. And she just was like, we're going to go ahead and cut your carbs down to 1/4 of a cup a day.
Holy shit. Yes, that's crazy.
It was awful. And it wreaked such mental havoc because in your mind, you're like, I'm adhering to this plan. I'm eating really well. In your mind, this is what you're thinking because you're dealing with a professional. And then you go in there and you're excited about your progress. And she just hits you with like, no, that's not good enough. So it sent me into a further tailspin than where I already was. So working with Grant, though, he knows sometimes I can go off the deep end. I'm like, this isn't good enough and I'm not doing good enough. And he always points out the wins for me. He's like, stop. Like, it's not just about the scale, because that's what society and what you focus on, right? You're like, if I'm not losing here, then I'm not doing enough. So he makes me pause and it's like, just stop.
Yeah.
Look
Break that
at your wins
emotional
here.
cycle.
Exactly. Like, celebrate yourself. And it's like, look at your mental progress. Look at what you've been able to get through in your stressful workday life. And he's really made me pause and help me reassess what's actually important. And it's not the scale.
Yeah.
It's about my relationship. It's about journaling, sitting with my feelings, and also celebrating how far I've come.
Oh, I love that
So
so
he's helped
much.
me help that.
I love that. Grant, now I would love it to segue. Cause so also, Kim, the other thing is with my podcast, I like hardly ever have like, I have like a bullet list of stuff to keep my ADHD brain on track, but like, I just like to free flow it. So like, Grant, talk about your side of that a little bit, where like, when you saw like that happening, like, okay, this is what her history was. Here's what's going on. Oh wait, there's a lot of like denying progress. Like, talk your end of that a little bit.
Yeah, well, because I still remember, I think it was on our first phone conversation, whenever you said that she was like, 5 pounds is not fast. And I'm like, what in the fuck? That's way too fast. I'm like, we got to reel that way back. But so I think that, just in looking at that, one of the first things that, kind of was in my mind is like, okay, it seems like you have a kind of like a conditioned response to like, if 5 pounds isn't fast enough, then, we got to really, really, really make sure that, you're honing in on all the good things that are happening, that you're, celebrating every win. And, it actually wasn't too long ago that I went back through your wins column, and just to kind of, because that's another thing that I really like seeing too, is how that kind of progresses, because a lot of the reasons why, we do that is because, again, it draws your, mind towards more of the, positive things in life. And just watching yours specifically evolve over, like the first few weeks, and now we're on week, I don't even know how many, but like just looking at, like what you were considering wins back then, not that there was anything wrong with that, but like seeing that and how that's evolved to now, it's just been night and day. It's so crazy to me.
Win progression is such a big thing. And that's the thing, is this is why, like, it's what I hate about the diet culture, is where too often it's like we're taught to deny what's right in front of us. But like, it's why I have a talk on the RAS and weight loss, where it's one of those things where it's how to word it. It's your brain is literally going to hide it from you what you're not focusing, or it's going to hide from you what you're not focusing on. So like, this is why so many people may be down inches on inches on inches, or they may have a transformation right in front of them, but because they're like, but I haven't lost weight yet, their brain literally hides it. It's dangerous. But I've always said, if you will deny little progress, you will deny big progress, because the truth is, if somebody has like 50 pounds they want to lose, it's not about losing 50 pounds. It's about losing 1 pound 50 times. So if you go, oh, it's just a pound. Oh, it's just, yeah, I guess I feel a little bit better, but that's not that big of a deal. Oh, I guess I binged less. Like, if you'll deny that, you'll deny your whole transformation. And then it's like, what's the point? You know what I mean?
Well, and I think too, because I think, as well, to kind of go off of that, you had so many little wins that, because I'm trying to think, it was like whenever I did your comparison of like your first progress photo to that, I feel like that just made it all the more like, holy shit, because again, it's, you celebrate all these little things. And then once you finally see that big, like, boom, boom, you're like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Kim, for you, where from your eyes, from where you're seated right now, where did the needle start to shift for you from like, like being in just like nothing good was happening, crazy diet culture, crazy restriction, bad stuff, to like, now you're over here in like the land of awesome shit, right? Where like all this cool stuff's happening. So like, where did the needle shift for you?
Like, on the timeline or mentally?
Mentally.
I think it really started, honestly, when I started calling myself out on my own bullshit, right? Like, it all starts, whether people want to admit it or not, it's you. You're your own problem, really, right? And only you can start fixing that. And I just got tired of being tired and not feeling confident and not feeling present, and just kind of living like a wallflower, if you will. So I think it started shifting when I actually put into motion with Grant, hey, listen, we're going to do this 3 days a week, and just start implementing small changes. And then it started building momentum. You're like, okay, that's not bad. And then you're like, you know what? I'm feeling good. I'm gonna get crazy here and put in a walk. And then you're like, all right, I'm feeling good. And you just start building on that.
Yeah.
So,
Now, whenever things were crazy prior to this, were you in like extremism? Like I know like just the nutrition, whatever you were doing before, like with 1,200 calories, no carbs, 5 pounds a week was too little. Like what were you, was it more extremism on the training and the other habits too?
I wasn't doing anything because I was so mentally overwhelmed at that point, and it just set me into a tailspin because in your mind you're like, I'm doing well, and then this person every 2 weeks is like, it's not enough. You're not good enough. You're still heavy. You're still fat. You're still this. So it's just like, you know what? Fuck you. So I actually ended my contract with her, and I was like, this isn't working. So I had to see her every day because she shared an office space. But I'm just like, I'm not going to eat like a fucking rabbit. You know, like that's just not my style. That's not something I can live with. So, you know, piss off and I'm going to do me.
I love you so much.
That's just what that was. And she glared at me and I was just like, go fuck yourself because you're doing so much more harm than good.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like, I see now why there's so many people coming out of her office just looking so, you know, disengaged and also sad. And it's like, well, I fucking get it now.
Mm.
You're not helping.
Right. No, good job on your end, recognizing what that was is not like that. That's the first thing is if you can't recognize what you're doing is unsustainable and that you're suffering, it's really hard to win. Cause a lot of times people, actually not a lot of times, most of the time people like your normal everyday person who's been struggling with losing weight forever. It's one of those things. And it's really sad that they're like, oh, nope, I have to suffer. And that's it. So like the thought of like, they think like thriving in their health and their the way they look and feel and like weight loss, they think it's all mutually exclusive where you have to suffer to get this. Most people don't even realize you can have all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And looking at her practice, if you will, I knew her also on a personal level. So I was surprised how the professional shift happened, but I'm like, you're fucking miserable. You know, like you might have this great physique, but one, you treat your clients like shit. You also talk about them behind your back and you're miserable yourself. So how can you be portraying that this is what's working when it's not working for you on the mental side?
Mm-hmm. That's such a big piece to bring out. And that's the other thing is with all this, you can't be, and this is an unfortunate thing. Another coach friend of mine, his name's Ryan, talked about this a lot with his own journey. Was he had like this crazy chiseled physique, but he was mentally broken. So, and when you're in that state, you will eventually sabotage everything because you don't give a shit anymore, right? Like it's like you see so many millionaires make a ton of money, but they're broken inside, and so they ended up getting rid of it all, harming, killing themselves, like all this bad stuff. Because if you're not good here, nothing else matters.
Right.
So for you, was it going from like what you were used to like over here, what we teach and doing things the right way? Was it kind of a shock to your system a little bit in terms of like, did you like one of the most common things I hear is people are like, I'm not doing enough. This isn't hard enough. I'm not suffering enough. This is too easy. And it's like, my thing is like, no, sweetheart, it's supposed to be that way. You have diet culture conditioning. Did you have that shock to your system a little bit, like mentally?
Absolutely. Because I was like, this can't be real. We're never going to make progress this way. There's no way I'm going to lose weight at this calorie point. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is too easy. It's never going to work. But it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's had balance and I can still have pizza or pasta or whatever, as long as it fits in my window. Yeah. And Grant's taught me to start prioritizing, you know, proteins and why that matters. And I'm just like, there's no way.
And you can still have carbs, right?
Yeah, I can. Not just a fourth of a cup.
Yep. Grant and I talk about this a lot where there's a point where, and it's why we have our coaching set up the way we do, because we know that psychology teaches us that the body teaches the mind what to think. The nervous system teaches our minds what to think. So if you have like this fear around, it doesn't matter what it is. Let's say this fear around you have to work out every day and now you're not. Or you have to starve yourself to lose weight. Now you're eating like 2,000 calories a day or whatever it is. And your brain's like, no, this is danger. This is death. This isn't going to work. But then you have irrefutable proof. It's what I call the fear of height. It's like this, what I call the skydiving moment. Whereas, you know, it's the reason people who are scared of heights skydive and they're instantly cured of fear of heights, because they have irrefutable proof they didn't die. So their brain's like, oh, I guess this isn't so bad after all. It's the same thing here. If you feel like you have to work out every day, if you feel like you can't eat your favorite foods and lose weight, if you feel like you have to starve, and then you just say, fuck it, I'm going to just trust the process and do what this dude says, and like you do it, even though you're scared as to what I call the uncomfortable action, then all of a sudden you start losing weight and feeling better. Your brain goes, well, damn it. I guess this isn't danger after all. And then now you're in this position. But like,
Yeah.
but you've actually experienced it. This is why like it's such a big deal to have these conversations, because most people don't believe it's possible. You know what I mean?
I didn't in the beginning. I was like, there's no way something so simple and subtle can be so effective. But I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, I'm going all in. I'm going to listen to what he has to say, and I'm going to follow the protocol. And here we are now, 4.5 months. We've made serious improvements. More mental, I think. I mean, I think that's the biggest part for me is the mental gains.
Well, and that's the thing is like, Grant, I'd love your opinion on this too. Like if you don't have the mental game, if you don't have mental progress, no other progress is going to matter. Right.
Right. No, I mean, you absolutely have to have that. And I think that it's, something with that too is, if you're only fixated on one given thing, then I feel like a lot of stuff just kind of goes to the wayside. Like if you were just fixated on like a scale number, for example, then I guarantee you, like, your newfound like strength goals and like, pushing yourself really hard in the gym. Like I feel like a lot of that wouldn't necessarily have presented itself, and you certainly would not have had as much fun, doing all that, had that foundation not already been, laid down and, really solidified.
Kim, do your like friends see what you're doing and they're just like, what the fuck? How is she eating carbs and pizza and that many calories and losing weight? That's one of the things I'll see a lot. People will be doing it the right way and all their friends are like, how the fuck is this possible?
I actually have a couple. Yes. One of my girlfriends, she is doing competition right now. She's like, how the fuck are you able to do this? And I was like, this is the man. I mean, I'm just following.
I remember you talking to me about her. Yeah.
Is this like a bodybuilder or a physique person?
Yes.
Yeah. What's really funny is like, obviously things on when you go to that side get extreme as fuck. But what's funny is even whenever we would coach a competitor, we still do the same thing. Like even if things are way stricter because it's bodybuilding, it's extreme as fuck. Like whenever I've coached bodybuilders, I'm still making them eat cheesecake when they want cheesecake because they're starving. You know what I mean? Like it even goes down to even in that crazy of a scenario, the same principles still apply. Most people just don't believe it. So I'm curious of this. This isn't in my notes. What made you shift the belief before? Like, because before you're like, this isn't possible. I have to suffer. Now you're bought in as fuck. So for you, when did the belief start to shift? Was it when you were just like, hey, I'm eating more and losing weight and having carbs? Or like, when did the belief change for you?
Sometimes I'll be honest, I still struggle. Like Grant knows, I still struggle with like, dang, this, I don't feel like I'm making progress sometimes. But I think it started shifting when I was able to not restrict my food and I could have that cookie when I wanted, or I could work in that candy bar on a Saturday and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah. I love that.
And I think that's the biggest thing is like, you give me a window, but I get to choose what I put in there.
Right.
That's such a powerful thing because it's kind of like I always kind of word that like compare that to like a guardrail, right? If you have no guardrails and you're on the side of a steep cliff, like you're gonna fall off and things are gonna go bad. But if you're like you have limits and restrictions that are so crazy where like you can't even drive the car, that's a whole different world. But if you have the right road and just a guardrail to keep you from falling off, you have so much freedom. That's why people don't understand that even in the realm of calorie tracking, like the diet culture has got such a stigma around that where it's like, oh no, it's restrictive. It's like, actually like we view it as nothing but freedom. You know what I mean? Like it's all about how you look at it. But it's like one of my favorite tactics. Grant and I talk about this all the time to fix like binge eating and food relationships. It's like there's so much freedom that comes within that. It kind of goes back to that old motto, like the old mantra of discipline equals freedom. Because once you're disciplined and you can show up for you, you're free as fuck. You can do whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think it gives you having that freedom also makes you aware and accountable for, okay, I have this. I'm working in this window, but what can I do to make sure my body feels good when I go to the gym and eat and I feel good and I'm also hitting, my goals. So I don't know, it's a good balance.
And I'm glad you use that word. It's interesting to me because so many people that are struggling, because that's like who we're talking to, right? Is everyone who's struggling, who is like where you were at, right? Is everyone, we're searching for balance, but everyone's avenue is extreme. Like how many people do we know that says, I'm an all or nothing person. I'm a perfectionist. I'm all in, all out. I'm going to have all the carbs or none of the carbs. I'm going to have no bad food or binge eat. Like those are all extremisms, but our lives thrive in balance. Was that like was there like a moment for you where you're like, wait, my life thrives in balance. So why am I trying to be extreme?
Yeah, I think so. There were moments in my mind that's like, I have calories, but like, ooh, that's going to be bad for me, or inherently like, you can't have that, or you can't do that. There's guilt associated with, if I wanted, a pack of M&Ms, then you just kind of have to talk yourself off the ledge. Like, I can do this and I can eat this without guilt, and it's okay. I can still have a balance.
Yeah, I love that. Grant, from your end of things, like, because like obviously you and I, like, because we're in this every day, we get it. But like for people listening who are like, holy shit, I don't know how I would even begin to not feel guilty having the pack of Skittles or having this. Like, how did you guys start? Like whenever it was one of those things where it's like you have Kim in front of you who's like starving herself, extremism over here, scared to eat, feels guilty for a fucking Snickers bar. So like, how do you start that? Like to go about like teaching to fix that?
Yeah, I mean, so I think, first and foremost, what I always like to do is kind of just throw them into it, right? So like, one of the first things that I always ask anyone is, is there a food that you feel like you can't have? And then, if they say like, okay, it's M&Ms, perfect. Okay, we're going to start incorporating M&Ms. And really, it's kind of, to be honest with you, it's almost kind of like a fearful thing at first. But it's once you start incorporating those M&Ms or whatever that fear food is, and then you see like, hey, I made progress, not only doing that, but doing all of this other stuff that I didn't think that I could do. That I think is kind of when it clicks like, oh, I can actually do all this stuff.
Irrefutable proof. I'm telling you, the biggest thing is like, it's like, I always compare this. If I walked into this room and my dog was on the ceiling, I would no longer believe gravity exists. Right. But like when we have proof, that's my bit. It hit me one day when I seen all this, I'm like, all we need is a little bit of proof and you can't argue with it. Right. Like someone who is even being irrational and it's like, no, I know science says this, but this is impossible. But when you have proof in front of you, it's like proof changes everything. You'll take someone on whatever level. You'll take an atheist. They have a spiritual experience. They're like, I can't help but believe in God now. Or you'll take someone who goes, you know what? I can't stand my mom. And then the mom does something like a big event happens and they're like, I can't not see that now. When we have irrefutable proof and it's like, wow, yeah, Skittles are terrible. And then you're like, how the fuck did I eat Skittles every day and I lost 3 pounds? I guess Skittles aren't bad. Like,
right.
The proof is the biggest thing. But just like you said, Grant, we got to throw people into it because,
and it does require a lot of trust. I mean, it really does. Yeah. Because everything that, we're taught, it's like, you absolutely cannot have, unhealthy food and lose weight. But so, I mean, it is. I mean, you have to take a huge leap, trusting me and, actually eating it. So, there's a lot of trust on that you put into us.
So Kim, on that, let's stay on that for a second. On the trust, like, was it just like blind Shark Tank faith, or was it like, I've tried everything, so might as well fucking give this a shot? Or like, how did you get from the trust standpoint to be like, you know what, this is scary as shit, but I'm just going to do it anyway?
That is a really good question. Why do you trust me?
That's a great question, Brandon. I don't know if we're there yet. No. Yeah, it is. It's strange, right? But it's like after all of these trials and working with these people in the past that have just destroyed my mental point of view and my mental health, I had been watching you on Instagram for years before you announced this. I think it was the scholarship program last year. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, fuck it.
I love that.
Might as well give it a try, because I was just in a really bad place, but I wanted to make a change. I didn't know how, right? Because everything you'd been taught before, like you've mentioned before, is restrictive, is you're not doing it right, you're not doing enough, whatever. And then I talked to Terry and I was like, oh, God, I don't know. I still don't know. And then I sat with it for a minute and I'm like, why the fuck not? Like, let's do the damn thing.
I love it.
And let's just throw it in because what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah, I love it. That makes me so happy. Well, so I really like it because like there's a lot of logic in it. Like, right, you go, well, I've done this for however many years. Well, this shit kind of makes sense. You know what? What's the worst that can happen? Because I'm already at rock bottom. You know what I mean?
Right.
But most people don't, when they're in an emotional state, they don't think with logic and data and like, let's make sense. It's like, no, the sky is falling. It's like, wait. Like to be honest with you, even my mentor right now that I'm working with, I had the exact same thing. I was really scared to join his program. I was really like it was a big investment. It was a big commitment. I'm just like, but you know what? Like, I have nothing to lose. Like, I already am not happy where I'm at. So like, it's like, it's a no brainer. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. And definitely, like, right, you said it's a financial commitment. It's a time commitment. I was concerned because the person I was working with previously, obviously we didn't work out. And so I was like, well, what happens if I don't like this person?
Mm-hmm.
And they are telling me the exact same information. But at some point you're like, I'm already not doing well.
Yeah.
I already do not like where I'm at. So might as well go all in and double down on myself and see where it takes me.
That's such a big
I can
deal.
tell you it's the honestly the best thing I've done for myself.
Oh, I love that. That makes me so happy. Now, have you ever prior to like this experience, have you ever done inner work at all? Because I know like that's part of like how we fix a lot of stuff, right? Like how you've been able to work through a lot of these, like with journaling and sitting with your emotions. Has that ever been a thing in your past before? Have you ever done any kind of inner work as it pertains to weight loss, I should say?
No, it was always just eat and that's it. It was never, why do you want to eat that specific way? And when you're feeling stressed, how do you deal with it? Now, as Gray knows, I walk away and I go for a walk. And by the time I get back, after I've processed or I've talked to a friend on the phone about my stress, I'm like, I don't want to eat anymore. Like, I'm okay. So no, I mean, he's made me very aware, or helped me, I should say, be very aware of where my stress is and how I can handle that in a better way. Because I never did that before.
Yeah. Grant, will you touch on why that's such a big deal? Like to handle your emotions separately from food and holding space and stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically kind of the gist of it is this, whenever you are, stressed out or whenever you're sad, this and that, basically a lot of time people want to gravitate to eating. And the reason behind that is they don't want to sit with the, emotion at hand. So if that's sadness, if it's, whatever it might be, the reason why we typically do that is because we aren't comfortable with those emotions. So basically how you kind of fix that is, well, you allow yourself to experience those emotions. You allow yourself to, get better at processing them. The goal is never to like eliminate a given emotion or anything like that. It's just basically to get someone to a point where, they can experience these emotions without having to turn to something else.
Emotional support. That's the thing is I like, a thing that came out on I did a group call the other day and it came out, like I wasn't even in my notes. I said, outer work without inner work doesn't work. Right. If you only have outer work, but you have all these inner issues like binge eating, emotional eating, sabotage, discipline problems, extremism, old identities, like you can't fix that with more dieting, right? You can't fix that with more cardio or less carbs or whatever, that's why I've started saying like outer work without inner work doesn't ever work, for long-term results. And this is exactly why. Because then you find out, oh, wait, maybe I wasn't hungry, right? And it's not that like eating's bad, but it's also one of those things where like, if you're emotionally driven to go smash some ice cream, you may not be hungry and you're actually denying your inner child. You're denying those inner emotions. But I don't know a single person that would, like, if their daughter came to them because their dog died, they'd say, get out of my face, go find cereal. I don't know anyone who would do that to their kid, but that's what we do when we suppress our own emotions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's very easy to pick up on that with things that are not food, right? So like if someone, every time they're sad, they go and drink, right? That's very easy for, I feel like societal cues pick up on that and they're like, okay, that's probably not something that's good. But when it comes to food, right? If you're sad and you just always gravitate to food, I feel like that's something that's not as, it's not as aware, or people aren't as aware of.
No, I totally agree.
It's challenging too, because, food's around all the time and you have to have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's at an office party, it's, at your family functions, birthdays, celebrations, whatever, right? It's always kind of geared toward food. And it's hard to kind of detach some of those emotions that you carry with it. And that's what you have to learn. Like, I don't always have to engage every time I'm feeling something,
Yeah.
You don't always have to do that.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
It's so hard. It's going against old conditioning, right? And this is one of the things that I'm so proud of you for, Kim, that you've done such a good job with, is you have done it. And I don't even know if you're aware that you've done it. You've done an amazing job at unlearning a lot. And the hard thing is when it's one of the biggest things we look for when we help people, because if you cannot unlearn something, we cannot teach you new stuff, right? Especially because half the shit goes against each other, right? Like low calorie is the only way. No, you got to eat. But that, you know what I'm saying? Or like this stuff, like if your old way is like, no, I can't feel sad because I have to eat. But it's like, no, we actually need to feel sad because that's suppressing emotions. But that's so hard to do. It's so hard to unlearn, because the way that psychology teaches our brain works with this stuff is that's the old familiar. So it's safe and predictable, and it served you at some point in your life, right? Like a lot of people picked up on their bad habits around nutrition and food and all this stuff when they were a little kid because mom and dad were fighting. And that's the only thing that they did. I'm just going to go find the crackers, right? But the fact that you've been able to go, okay, and unlearn, as uncomfortable as it is, unlearn all these old things and like take off the old jacket and like, okay, I'm going to put on this new jacket that fits a little bit better. That's hard. And that needs to be really commended, because that's what I would say, that's one of the biggest things that stops most people, is their inability to unlearn something that's familiar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for saying that. It's definitely, it's been work for sure, but it feels good to be able to recognize old patterns and like, wait, stop. Why do I want to do that? And then, make progress into where I want to be, not where I was. Like you said, it's comfy, right? I want to get off work. I'm stressed. I'm pissed. I want to sit on the couch and, eat those damn double fudge cookies and watch Netflix, and you're like, but, you have to shed layers of yourself that no longer serve you through this process.
That's such good stuff.
It's true, right? You're like, I wasn't happy then. How is that going to make me happy now? And how is that going to project me into the future of where I want to be? That doesn't serve me any longer. And it pisses you off because you're like, well, fuck, I don't want to deal with this shit, but you have to learn to. Yeah,
absolutely. It's crazy because like this is the game. Like if this is what it's kind of what I've started calling accidental weight loss, where like if you focus only on weight loss and don't do the inner work that you've done and get the awareness and understanding, you might lose weight, but you're going to gain it back and you're going to regress and still be unhappy. But like if you forget about weight loss for like 10 seconds and do what you've done, like, all right, I'm going to fix my relationship with food. I'm going to fix my relationship with myself. I'm going to learn to sit with my triggers. I'm going to learn to be really self-aware. Well, weight loss kind of happened on an accident, and it's not going away anytime soon, right? Because of you fix the foundation. That's the whole thing with this, is foundational work. Because now like we'll call it accidental weight loss, but because you fixed all these areas, you're not sabotaging. You see what I mean? Let me ask you this. Have you noticed, I always like to ask this with somebody that's kind of in your shoes who have like really overhauled their stuff in a really short period of time like this. Have you noticed things outside of fitness and weight loss that's gotten better because of now where you're at emotionally, now where how you handle your thoughts and inner game? Have you noticed like family, work, money, life? Have you noticed other areas changed because of the work that you've been doing?
Definitely. My relationships with my family and how I deal with things have changed. I'm able to be more aware of the patterns that happen there. With work, I can't say, I don't know, I was not as triggered perhaps.
Love that.
And how I handle stress. And there are days where I'm just like, oh hell,
sure.
You're on my last damn nerve. But most of all, I just try to be, it's made me more aware.
I love that. It's such a
and not let things get under my skin,
Yeah. It's such a simple, profound thing, but it's so hard to do. Like I've said this for years. and it'll be on my tombstone that if you, basically, you're losing weight the right way if everything else in your life changes. If you only lose weight and nothing in your life gets better, you're doing it wrong. Because what we're doing, if you just lost weight, nothing else changed, like, okay, like whatever. But that's when the old self sabotages it or doesn't change anything else. But what you've done, you've changed the core fundamentals of who you are. You've changed your character. You've changed how you respond to things instead of always reacting. You've I guarantee you half the reason stuff doesn't get under your skin at work is because you go, oh, I can't control that. So it's not even on the table anymore. Right. Like you've changed the fundamentals of who you are as a human, which make weight loss hella easy, but also now the rest of your life has gotten better. Would you agree with that, Grant?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. This is awesome. I feel like, Kim, you should have a podcast. You have just such bright, amazing energy.
I know,
and
you really
cuss
should.
a lot. I love how much you cuss. It makes me so happy.
My dad's always like, you should have been one of those radio psychologists that just tell people to fuck off and get over yourself. And I'm like, I think I'd be great.
You should. Yeah, you absolutely should. I'm just saying, I can show you how to start a podcast for free in 4 seconds. It's so easy. If a dumbass like me can do it, you could absolutely start a podcast. So let me know.
Oh, hell. Give me a list of items, man. I'd be just sitting pretty.
I love it. Well, Rick, let's kind of wrap it up a little bit. One thing I wanted to ask you though, Kim, is from like, especially where you're sitting now, like what advice would you have for someone who's in you, like, let's say is in your shoes, like, let's say 6 months ago, like where you were 6 months ago. Or let's say they're believing into all the bullshit your old coach told you, like the same like stuff. Like, what kind of advice would you give them? Like you guys are at like Starbucks waiting on your coffee. Like what kind of advice would you give from your perspective?
Take the chance. It's going to be uncomfortable. You really do have to do a lot of work, but take the chance because you deserve it. You deserve the life you want. You deserve to be that confident, vibrant person. Put in the fucking work. Stop living in the past.
I love that. That's so powerful. Like you really should have your own podcast, Kim.
Let's do it.
I can show you how to I'm not even kidding. I will show you how to get started in 4 seconds. So,
all right.
Well, and Kim, I also wanted to, because I know that this will help out a lot of people.
Yeah.
So one characteristic of you that I know has just really, really, really done so much is you are phenomenal, like 4 steps above what I would consider like really, really good at showing up for yourself no matter what. What are your secrets to doing that?
To be honest, before you answer that, like this is where most people miss the mark. Most people have every reason to like not show up for themselves. And that's one thing Grant's talked about consistently about your stuff is that it's like, no matter what, you're always just showing up for yourself as a non-negotiable.
Because a lot of the times, whenever life throws you curveballs and things like that, it's very easy to kind of, regress back into, what we would call like the old self. But like, I mean, you throughout time and time again, you have always just done a absolutely phenomenal job of just always showing up for yourself, regardless of the situation.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's not easy. It's a conversation that I had like the other day. Yesterday, we did legs and I was like, I'm tired. I didn't sleep well. I have a headache. Fuck everybody. But then I was like, what is it going to do if I just sit here on my ass and eat? It's not going to do anything. Give myself that gift, right? That's what I tell myself. Today, I gift myself movement. Today, I'm giving myself peace in that 1 hour walk. That's how I've started framing it. Like, what gift am I giving myself?
That's such a powerful perspective. Like, that's huge. Like that's some super deep shit. Like I feel like we should have started the podcast with that. So I'm curious now that you say that, have you always thought about hard disciplinary tasks as a gift, or is that something that you picked up, or was that something that like your great grandma told? Like I've never heard anyone talk about it like that. That's fascinating.
I think I just picked it up as I've started this journey because you neglect yourself for so long, and then it's like, what am I doing for myself? What am I, everybody's like self-care this and face mask that and all that shit. It's like, what am I really doing for myself? What kind of gift can I give myself? And that's what I've started. I actually have that on my board upstairs at work that I have it framed. And I'm just like, what do I get to do for myself today? That's not my relationship. That's not family shit. That's not work shit. That's just me, Kimberly.
That's huge. That's so, like, I couldn't think of a better way to end this episode. That's so good. Because again, I think most people listening, that's why I know this is going to help a lot of people, just got smacked in the face, because most people view these things, going to the gym, eating better, going on a walk, having, one piece of pizza instead of 7. Like, most people view this as like bad. They have a cloud over all of it. It's very negative, but you have like, no, this is a gift. Going to the gym is a gift for myself. For me, going on a walk when I want to go dive into food is a gift I'm giving myself. Like, that's a whole different light. And I feel like if everyone showed up with themselves with that entire energy of like, no, I'm doing this for me, because then also, again, the body teaches the mind what to think. Now over time, you'll start to actually understand, wow, I am worthy of what I want. I am good enough, because now you're showing up for yourself when you don't want to. It's the epitome of self-love, is when you do not feel like it, showing up for you anyway, because you're worth being shown up for. It's such a powerful thing.
It. Absolutely. And, you have to preface it instead of like, oh, I have to go to the gym or I have to go do that. Like, start reframing it as something that you're giving yourself. So there's your reward and you feel good about it. And you're not just in there like, fuck, this sucks. Yeah. Because yesterday it did. I'm not gonna lie. But but it felt amazing afterwards, because I was like, I was able to recenter myself, and I'm like, hell yeah, I did that for me. Nobody else. That was for me. Because Grant wouldn't have known. What was he gonna do? You know what I mean? But it's like, that's for me.
Yeah. That's such a huge thing. Do it for you. That's so powerful. I love it. Well, guys, I appreciate the fuck out of this. I know thousands of people who are going to be watching and listening to this is going to appreciate it. And so I appreciate the fuck out of both of you. Thank you so much for doing this, Kim. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, thank you, Kim.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, guys, thank you once again for tuning in to today's episode of the podcast. I'm so excited that you stuck around for the whole thing, and thank you for that. I hope you got a lot of value out of this, and I hope that Kim's story really resonated with you. My sole goal is it gives you hope of like, wow, I can do this. Like, there's no reason, if she did that and she was able to come out of that, there's no reason I can't. So I appreciate you sticking around for the whole thing. Be sure, like I said before, and check out the links below. Now, I do have a special offer for you. If you've listened to that and you're like, okay, wow, I want help. I really, really need help. I want to have that kind of experience. And if you want to work with Grant, because you've got an idea of his vibe and kind of like what we do and how specifically though, like her experience with working with Grant. So if you would like to work with Grant, or anyone on my team for that matter, but especially after listening to this and you're like, okay, I want help. But I'd really like to have Grant help me because of that, about what we talked about in today's episode. I will leave a link below where you can apply for coaching. But here's the cool part. I do have a special offer for you that I'm not offering. Like I'm not talking about this anywhere else. This is only here because you're coming from the podcast. I do have a special offer for those of you that are ready and really serious about closing the gap from where you are to where you want to be, and who not only just like need coaching and need help, but for those who are super serious and are like, okay, I want help. I am ready for this. I'm ready for the change, and I'm tired of struggling and suffering, just like Kim was. So if you are in that situation and you are ready and you're like, yes, let's do this, apply for coaching at the link below. But under on the questionnaire that because we make it an application where we have to learn more about you so we can see if we can help. Because we don't just help anybody. We only help those we know we can change their life. So on the type form, on the questionnaire, it'll say, is there anything about us, or is there anything else you want us to know? I want you to put in that you listened to this episode, because I have a very special offer for you, just because you came from the podcast, because I reward action takers, and people who listen to the podcast are special, because it takes a special kind of person to sit here and listen to a big 45-minute talk about this stuff. So I want to reward that, and I want to give you guys here a special offer that like I'm not putting anywhere else. So by all means, do that. Let me know if you need anything. Be sure and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you next time.